welcome back to the Tin Barn. I'm Pragmatic Lee, and we've got a little fabrication project today. Over the last week, we've had some folks at the church I attend installing some new video equipment. As part of our outreach ministry there at our church, we make DVDs of each service. We're not doing any live streaming yet, but we do make DVDs of the service. Just upgraded our duplicator, and we do that with 4 cameras positioned, one in front of the church, one at the back, one on the left, one at the right, and each one of them has independent pan, tilt, and zoom. And the cameras we'd had in there, I guess, were probably 15 years old, analog system. We had some new digital 1080p cameras installed this week with dome cameras with 360-degree pan on them, HDMI connectors, so much higher quality. The switcher that we put in, it's actually called a switch scaler, was from Vanco, and it's a small device. I'll try to insert a little a picture of it here. But right now it's sitting flat down on the workbench there where the technicians set out on Sunday mornings. And in front of it is the joystick for controlling the pan, pan, tilt, and zoom for each of the 4 cameras. It's switchable as well. So this switch or scaler for the video to determine which signal is going to the DVD recorder is it's not positioned in such a place where it's easy to get to and change the source going to the DVD. So what I'm going to do today is simply fabricate a small stand to raise it up about 4 inches, thereabouts, 3.5 to 4.5 inches, somewhere in that range. With it tilted back 20 degrees. What we're going to use for it to sit on, this is a piece of 6 by 18, 25 thousandths thick aluminum. And for the legs, I'm going to use this piece of, it's something that I had here. I believe this is 4 inch, and it's 9.5 long. And I believe that's 1/2 inch thick. But I've got it divided evenly here. I'll saw that off later, then put it in the mill and mill them down flat. The ends are reasonably square now, but we'll double check that. But first thing I want to do is get the little brake set up here on the workbench. And I'll lay out this piece and put a couple folds in it. We're going to put a fold on the back, turned up 3/8 of an inch, just to keep the scaler or switch from sliding off the back of this. And then on the front, we're going to turn the front down. Let's see, what did 7/8 of an inch, turn the front down. That will leave 4 3/4 across the top, which is the depth of the switcher itself. So let me get the brake set up, and then I'll turn the camera down here. All right, I've got a couple marks on here on each end. This one's at 3/8 right here. I got a little scribe line. And then this one's at 7/8. That'll leave 4 3/4 in the middle. Now I realize my leg piece is only 4 inches. That's going to leave a little overhang in the back, which should be okay. This just happens to be what I've got, and so that's what I'm going to use. This is the little smallest brake that Harbor Freight sells, and it actually works pretty good considering what it is. It says will work 16 gauge, and I have folded 16 gauge with it, but not any this length, nor this smaller fold, 3/8 of an inch, shorter fold. So I believe with this aluminum should work fine. This aluminum is 25 thousandths thick. I don't know whether they don't measure or don't categorize aluminum by gauge or not. but this was marked as 25 thousandths, and that's what it measured out to be. The little brake requires additional setup, meaning everything's got to be clamped. But again, for what it is and the price, it works pretty good. I'd love to be able to clamp there, but I don't have any thin clamps deep enough to reach that. So let's try this 3/8 fold here. And that's about a 90-degree fold. And of course that stiffened it up considerably when I put that in. So now I just realized I got my 7/8 marks on the wrong side. This fold needs to go in the other direction, and actually we'll need to go 20 degrees beyond 90. So let me get this marked, get my 20-degree block out, and then we'll come right back and fold this. Okay, I've got it turned over now and got it clamped down, and as I say, I want this edge, you can see the little mark right here, just a pencil mark. I want this front edge, it's going to be sitting here, so instead of just 90 degrees, it's going to need to be in 20 degrees beyond 90. So let's get it brought up. That should be about 90. Now I'll take my little 20-degree block here. And again, I'm just roughly looking at that. That needs to go more. I think that is close enough for now. We'll look at that butter. If we need to fold it more, we can after we get our legs made. So I'm going to carry this over to the bandsaw now and roughly saw on this line, and then we'll get set up on the mill to actually make these two pieces exactly the same size. Okay, I'm over at the mill now, and I got the two pieces sawed off. I didn't quite get them the same length, but what we're going to start out first is put them in there flat in the vise and try to mill off these bottoms. Just one of them is a factory in, but the other one is a saw cut. Let me grab a couple pieces of aluminum wire. They're cut off the same piece, so they should be the same, exactly the same width, but don't like to take a chance when cutting multiple pieces here. See if I can get my fingers right to hold everything. Okay. All right. So now we're going to get these two ends parallel with each other, square with each other. And now we'll get just a few thousandths on climb milling. Should give us a good clean finish. All right, we got two square ends. Now I'm going to use my angle block and get these set up at 20 degrees, and I'll bring you right back for that. It'll take a moment to get that set up. I've got a parallel in the bottom of the mill vise now, and got the two pieces sitting on there, got them lined up, and I'm going to use a clamp on here to hopefully hold everything, or hold these two pieces tight together while I get them set up. I'm going to start out with my same 20 degree that I used over on the press, I'm sorry, on the brake. And I'm going to get it snug with that. Now I've got my angle cube, and I've got it zeroed out with the vise itself. So I can put that right on the side And that's got me at 19 3/4 degrees. Okay, we need to go the other way. 19.9. That's 20.1 degrees. I believe that's close enough. Now, if this was 1/2 inch thick steel, I would probably look for a different way of holding this. This is a lot sticking up above the mill vise. But this is 6061 aluminum, and it should mill pretty easy. I'll just be sure my vise is good and tight. Double check it one more time. 20.1. So I've got some milling here. This back one is probably 100 thousandths taller than the other one. But we're gonna mill until we got both of these flat. And I'm gonna go ahead and put another clamp on this side too. All righty. Using a little WD-40 on it just to keep this gummy aluminum from clogging up the end mill. Okay, that didn't quite clean up, so I'm gonna go down. I don't know, there's about 25 thousandths. We'll make another pass. All right, that cleaned up nicely all the way across there. Got a little burr on that outer edge. I can probably clean that up better, easier when I get it out of the vise. All right, I'm gonna swing the camera around to the workbench and show you where we are so far. All right, we got a good clean finish on our 20-degree bevel here. Good finish on the square end. I've marked these left and right now because I'm fixing to mark some holes, mark for some mounting holes. And I got me a couple little cheater marks on the table there just to get this set up. I'll try to get out of the way. But now, hopefully you can see why I wanted this fold 20 degrees beyond 90. If it had been 90 degrees, of course it would be sticking out this way, but this fits up nice with the angle. Got the 3/8 in the back here turned up to keep the switcher from sliding off. So now what I want to do, I'm going to take my center punch, or take my spring punch. Let me grab it. I'm going to lay out some dimensions here on each end, punch down, and this being this thin aluminum, I think it will go through enough to give me an indication on the bottom pieces. And then I'll put these back in the mill vise again and drill and tap them for probably a 1024. I'll look and see what my screws look like. But I'm going to lay this out, and then I'll bring you back when we get over there to the mill to drill and tap the holes. All right, got the camera swung around now, and I'm going to try to show you how I'm going to transfer these holes. This is the right side. I've already got a couple holes punched down in here, but I'll set this up here. Hold that good and snug and even, and re-punch that and punch that. And that gave me a good mark on there that I can emphasize just a little bit more with another punch. Now, I'll go over to the, back over to the mill, set these up, and drill and tap. Back over at the mill now, and I've got the drill chuck installed in the mill, in the quill now. I'm going to use these 832 panhead screws. Now, obviously this is not thick enough to countersink a screw into, but these heads will not get in the way of the switcher sitting on this platform. The switch is actually on rubber feet, which stick up probably a good 1/4 of an inch. So these heads shouldn't get in the way at all. Got 11/64 bit in there, which is the size of the 832 screws, or clearance bit. I may have to go down here to the other end to get that one. All right. Now we'll get set back up to drill and tap the holes in the riser. I've got our 2 risers mounted in the mill vise now. Got them back on to 20 degrees. And I'm gonna, those holes that I punched in there, I'm gonna use the wiggler to locate them. Just snug that in the chuck a little bit. All right, I'm satisfied with that. I'll lock the X and Y down. And I'll probably go ahead and drill these pretty deep. The screws I've got are 1 inch. I can cut them off, but go ahead and drill it deep enough, and then I only have to use 1 tap instead of having to use the taper tap and then the bottom tap. Now, number 8 tap, I'm not going to attempt to power tap that, but I'll come up a little higher and put my tap guide in. Get that up, camera turned up a little bit better, so maybe you can see what's going on here. All right, I've got the spring-loaded tap guide in now. And I got to go up a little higher. Well, well. My head's up as high as it'll go. So let me see what I can figure out here to get this tap in, see if I can locate a shorter tap. Okay, all my taps, of course, are the same length, but what I did was just move the work over in the vise so that it drops below the bed of the vise. And then I put this jack under this end right here. We're not going to be putting a whole lot of pressure on this, just drilling and tapping. So now I should be able to get the tap guide in. Put a little juice on it. Of course, I'm sure you're familiar with it, but what's happening up here is this spring-loaded tap guide is keeping me straight in the hole. I think that's plenty deep enough now. I will, if not, of course, I can always cut the little panhead screws off. All right, I'm going to use the wiggler and locate the next hole and go around to all 4 of them, do the same thing. Locate the hole, drill it, and then tap it. All right, we're finished with the risers and the bed now. But as you expect, with this thin 25 thousandths aluminum, there's a little bit of rock in that. I thought about putting some feet on here to actually screw down to the workbench that this will be sitting on, or the bench in the sound booth. But I think what I'm going to do, before I go to all that trouble, I think I'm just going to drill and tap a hole in the front here. And I believe that will take most of that out. So I'll do that probably off camera, but then I'm going to come back and take some of this thick stock. The switcher that will be up here actually has a manual buttons on it, but it also has a small remote control. So what I want to do is using this, make a little pocket over here on this side. Just somewhere to store that remote control in. So for now, I'm going to drill and tap a couple holes in front, put some screws in that, and then I'll bring you back when we get ready to do the pocket for the remote control. All right, after adding the 2 screws to the front of it here, that has stabilized that very well. I don't see any need of putting any feet on that. So what we're going to do now is work on a pocket down here for the remote. I've cut a piece of this stock out. What is this? 1 inch by 2.5 by 1 inch thick. What I'm going to do is mill a pocket out of this end down here. The pocket will not go all the way through. The remote is 3 1/4 inches deep, so I'll go half that, or a little over half that distance in depth, and enough for the width. And then when I milled this piece off, when I squared up the ends, I intentionally made it 100 thousandths, 3.9 inches versus the 4. And the reason I did that was, of course, this is the factory edges on these risers that we've got here, and they're rounded a little bit. So I want this inside that round. Now, to be sure we match up our holes properly for mounting this to that, I will do everything from the center of this riser and from the center of this, what will be the pocket. So I'm going to get this laid out of what I need to mill out of it, and then we'll meet you back over at the mill. Okay, the piece that's going to be the pocket, I've got it in the mill vise now, and I've got the edge finder in the quill. So we're going to find the edge on that, each edge, locate center, then we're going to locate this edge as well. Zero out the x-axis. Now we'll move down here to the other end. And as I said, I meant to mill this 3.9 That reads 4.1, which is 200 thousandths larger, and that's exactly the diameter of the probe here. So on the x-axis, I'll go x 1/2. Now we want to find this front edge just till it kicks out. Zero out the y. I'll double check that. Kicks out, same spot. All right, I know that probe is again 200 thousandths, so I'll come in 100 thousandths and zero out the y. So now we have the center, the x-axis, and we have this edge on the y-axis. Got the DRO set to 0 on those. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch roughing end mill to mill this pocket out. I've got the specification sheet with me on this switch that has the dimensions for the switch and the remote control. Gives me the width and the height, but doesn't give me the depth or the thickness of it. But I think what I'm going to do is go 1/2 inch deep. I know it's no more than 1/2 inch. So I'll come in now. I'll come in a little, just till I touch off. Zero out the DRO on the z-axis. Now, to get the 2 inch width, I want a little bit of play, a little bit of extra in that. Since this is a 1/4 inch, I'm going to go 1 inch on each side of center. So that'll give me a total of 2.25 inches. Again, a little bit extra. Don't want the guys having to fight to put that, to get it in place. All right, so there's 1 inch. And I believe in this aluminum, I can go ahead and take the full 1/2 inch depth. We're going to try it. All right, there's 500 thousandths. And with this, I want to keep plenty of the WD-40 on there, just to keep that end mill from clogging up. Probably going to have to use a little air in that. Hopefully I'm not shaking the camera too much here. You can tell when that end mill is starting to get clogged up. It just gets tighter on the y-axis. All right, so there's 1.75. I lock the Y down. Now we'll go to 1 inch on the other side of our center. And we'll break an end mill. That's not the first end mill I've ever broke by getting too aggressive, and I'm sure it's not the last one. Won't be the last one. But just for the heck of it, let's see, we were going down 1/2 inch. So we'll start out with a little bit less now. All right, now we can make the final cut to 1/2 inch deep for the outline of the pocket. right, maybe you can see it in the video, but what we've got is the full depth now, outlined all the way around. And I can go to full depth now, but just not take as wide a cut at the time. Plus there's somewhere now for the chips to go, so it won't clog up near as bad. Okay, the pocket looks good. I'm happy with that. Now what I want to do is lay out some bolt holes. These will be threaded in here, and I'm only going to go about half the depth, so that they'll be blind holes. And then we'll lay out those same holes on our riser. So I'll bring the table back to 0. I'm going to get the drill chuck in and decide where I want to put my holes, and then I'll bring you back. Found the bottom edge down here, so everything will be relative to this bottom edge and the center on the x-axis, which didn't change. I hadn't moved this piece in the vise. So I'm going to come over 1.55 from center, and look at that. I believe that's going to be about where I want to go. Yep. And then the first one I'm going to put at 5/8 of an inch, 0.625. Lock the X and Y down. I'm going to zero out the DRO. This is 1 inch thick. I'm going to go about 3/4 of an inch. All right, I'm going to go ahead and drill all the holes, and I'll come back and tap them. Now I want to move on the y-axis to 1.250. I'm sorry, 1.875 is what I want to go to. Let me make myself a note of that. 1.875. That will be 5/8 of an inch off of this edge. And lock the Y down, and the Z should still be at 0, so go down 3/4 of an inch. Now I'll go to 1.55, I'm sorry. I want to be sure I get these written down, because that's going to be the same dimensions I use on the riser when I put it over here. Now we go back to the 0.625 on the y-axis. All right, and just like before, I'll put the tap guide in here and tap these down as deep as the tap will go. I'll bring you back when we get that done and get ready to start on the upright. Okay, so here's the pocket milled out now, deburred, with the 4 holes drilled and tapped. We're going to want to mount that on this end down here. But I don't think I want it right on the bottom. You know, you got to leave a little spot under there for stuff to get lost under, so I think I'm going to come up a 1/2 inch off this bottom. And as long as we keep these same coordinates in here that we did on this piece, our 4 holes should line up. So I'm going to remove these screws. I'll put this piece in the mill, and I've got it marked good with a red marker under there so I know which side is up. We're going to use some countersink socket head cap screws to hold this pocket on. Okay, if you recall when we had the pocket in here, we were working XY axis in this direction with that being the bottom. This time we've got it turned a little bit, or we've got it turned 90 degrees. What I'm going to do, I found the center on what is the y-axis now, just like I did before. I'm going to find this edge right here. I'll zero out the X. I'll check that again just to be sure it repeats. And it did. So now we come over 100 thousandths, which is half the thickness of the probe here, and zero out the X. Now, if we were going to put this flush with the bottom, we would start right there, but you remember I said I wanted to move everything up a ½ inch. So now we'll go 500 thousandths, and that will become our zero. So we want to move 1.55 on the y-axis now. And we want to come up, first one 625 thousandths. And these will be drilled with 11/64 bit. And I believe being soft aluminum, I don't think I will have to use a center drill on these holes. Let's see. Oh yeah. Now we'll go up to 1.875 on the X. Now we want 1.55 on the other side of zero. Now we'll come back to 625 thousandths from our zero. And if all the figuring was correct on my pen and paper and in my head, those holes should line up. But now what we want to do is counterbore them for the socket head cap screws. So I've got the counterbore here. All right, there's touching off. We want to come down 165 thousandths. I got a burr down in there. I keep forgetting every time I use this countersink here that it actually needs a little larger pilot hole than you would normally use for number 8. See, that goes right through. So I'm going to get a larger drill bit, go back through these 4 holes, drill those out and counterbore them, and then when I get ready to match it up to the pocket, I'll bring you back. Instead of 11/64 bit, which is clearance for a number 8, for the pilot on the counterbore, I need a 13/64. So that's what I have here. All right, zero out again, come down 165 thousandths. All right, now we're ready to go back over to the workbench and see if this matches. All right, now we're ready to see if the holes we just drilled in this riser and counterboard are going to match the holes that we drilled and tapped in the pocket. And this is 100% live right here. I have not tried this ahead of time. So let's see. Be sure I'm not putting the pocket on upside down. Might make it a little bit hard to get the remote control out of. All right, it looks like it's going to fit. If anything, I may have one hole there It's either got a burr in it or I didn't countersink deep enough. I think it was just a burr in it. All right, there's the pocket. And hopefully you can see that it is centered. Remember I said I didn't want this to come out right flush because of this roll on this. So I milled that 100,000 short. And there's what the pocket looks like for the remote to set in. That's what it will look like assembled. See if I can get the camera tilted a little better in a good direction. Before I put these top screws back in, I think I'm going to dismantle everything, get some acetone out, clean it real good, and may see about putting a coat of paint on it this afternoon. It's just started raining here, so I'm not sure how well the paint might do today. I may wait until another day, but I'll bring you back when I get that done and get it painted. I could paint it with it assembled, but I do not like painted head screws, painted screw heads. So I'm going to take it apart, clean everything, and paint it, and then we'll come back for a recap. Okay, here's the finished product, painted up. Got the pocket in the end down here for the remote control to set in. I'm going to carry this over to the church, install it, do a couple other small items while I'm there, try to take a few pictures of it before and after, and then we'll come back and close this video out. Okay, hope you enjoyed this video. Like Mr. Pete says in a lot of his, I have no idea you will ever need to build something like this, but maybe the entertainment value was worth a little bit to you, and maybe you saw a few techniques that you can use in some of your projects. So take care, and we'll see you on the next video.